Many people wonder how I keep the grass out of my garden, and I use a certain technique. But I have not tilled this garden since January. And the reason I tilled it then is because I was preparing and mending the soil. So I'm going to show you how I keep the grass out of my soil. So let's get right into it. First of all, we're going to take a look at the garden, then I'm going to show you and tell you how I keep the grass out of my garden. It's really super easy if you do this technique. And if you look at my garden, you'll notice that I cannot till in here. I am now getting the corn roots up and getting them out of the garden so I can get ready to plant something else. So let's take a look at the garden. So here we got the sweet potatoes, the squashes, different varieties of squashes, cucumbers, pink eye purple hulls, okra, and tomatoes. So let's go right on down. So the first thing you're going to notice is that there is no rows. So I plant my rows about 2.5 feet to 3 feet apart. Some of them I'll go 3 feet. Most of the time I try to go 2.5 feet apart. And the reason that is when these plants grow up, it's going to overshadow the dirt or the soil, if you want to call it that. We call it dirt around here at the south, but it overshadows it and keeps the grass out. Another technique I use is I put marigolds between my tomato plants. I have not had to hoe or try to get the weeds out, not one time. Every now and then I'll see a sprig of grass and I'll go ahead and pull it. But as you can tell, there is no way to really get down there with a tiller. So keeping the grass out at the beginning is very crucial. So in this area was brassicas to begin with. There was garden peas, there was potatoes, and now something else has been planted into their place. But nevertheless, when the brassicas was here, I still had to keep the grass out, and plus all the way around the garden. Plus there is a time period that this garden's got to grow, so it's not going to be overshadowing the soil. One of the trouble areas I've always had, there's a deer fence here, and next to the deer fence, grass will grow. And plus this is my walk path, and walking path always presses the dirt down, and then it starts, once it's packed down, then grass can grow because it's packed down. Just because I'm walking on doesn't mean it keeps the grass out, it just means it packs it down. So I'm going to share with you in just a little bit on how and what I use to keep the grass out of my garden. Keeping the grass out, it's a stress reliever. Nobody wants to go to the garden with grass all in it because grass will take your nutrients. Grass will overtake it, overshadow it, and create your plants to be stunted. They won't grow properly. Having a garden is a solitude place. It's a peaceful place. It's a place that you can think at. But you can't think and you can't be restful if you got a bunch of grass into your garden. As a matter of fact, you will not want to come out to your garden because you're looking at the grass. You're not looking at the beautiful plants. You're not looking at the harvest. You're not looking at the insects that's around you that you need to kill, whether it's precedent, mashing them, or however you decide to kill those insects. You're looking at the grass. So there's 3 tools that I use into my garden that keeps me from tilling my garden, which they say it's not good for the soil. So one of the things that I do use is I use a hoe and a little cultivator. I love this tool here because I use more of the cultivator, which actually has been a little bit because this is new ground. It's been here about 3 years, and there was roots in here, and every now and then I'll run across a root. But I love this little cultivator because cultivating around your plants and into that row is very crucial because you're keeping that soil stirred up, it's giving air to the roots, and it's keeping that soil stirred up so grass will not grow. And then at the same time, you are reaching down, pulling grass, so your other tool is your hand. Anytime you see a sprig of grass at the beginning of garden season, pull it up. It's easy to get little seedling grasses out than it is to get a big chunk of grass. You don't want seeding or grass seeding into your garden. You don't want seeds into your garden. If you can get the roots out, if you can get those grass roots out, then you can have a successful garden that will be grass free. So the other tool that I use that's very crucial also is this little handy tool right here. It's got a blade on the end of it, and I'm going to show you how I use this. Now once again, I have not tilled my garden. I have used these two tools, and well, say three tools, and my hands to keep the grass out. So even with this tool right here, I go around my whole entire garden, and it actually cultivates the soil a little bit, and it keeps the grass out. So let's see if we can find some grass in this garden and show you how it works. Hopefully we can find some. I have not done this garden in about a week and a half. What I do is I start going around, and if I see grass, I'll go ahead and get it out, but I'll also ruffle up that soil, that dirt. I'll ruffle it up, scrape it, and it keeps that soil ruffled up. It keeps the air going to that soil, because here we've been having a lot of rain, which creates algae onto the ground, which creates that the airflow can't get to the roots or get to the ground like it's properly supposed to do. So let's go find some grass. Okay, right at the very end of my little tool there is a sprig of grass. So here is a sprig of grass, and I see another one coming up. Usually these little small pieces of grass, you can't really see them as you're walking because they're just babies. And there's another piece of grass, I didn't even see it. So this tool right here literally cuts the roots. It's cultivating this soil. And it's very simple, and it's very easy, and it just keeps the grass out. Here on this area right here, I throw a lot of scraps out. So I definitely want to keep it cultivated, because not only that, it's stirring up those scraps, the garden scraps from vegetables that I've cut up and I canned, and it keeps that stirred up so it'll go ahead and compost. So here I see some grass coming up. It's small. I don't walk by it. I go ahead and get this grass out of here. And it's just that simple. Not only that, I go down the row, and these are butternut squash on this side, and I just move these plants back and give this soil a good little threshing. And at the same time, I will go to my row, and I will start using my little cultivator here. I'll get my cultivator and I'll start ruffling up this soil, because that just keeps the soil out. Also keeping airflow to this soil. Now this little tool here is also good for just going across the top of my row. So there are times I'll just go across the road like that. At the same time, I go down my row and I get this grass out. Now, usually I go backwards. I don't go and just do this and then stomp on it. I go backwards, and therefore the soil is going to get stirred up and get some good airflow. Now you see it, that it looks like it's been cultivated. It looks like it's been tilled up. And down here I see a little bit of sprigs of grass. But I also see algae that's growing here, which is not good for the soil. It's not good for the soil. I've never had any problems with it, but you know that it's not getting good airflow. So down each row, I'm just going to take my little tool here, and not only am I getting the grass out, but I'm getting that algae stirred up, and it's breaking it up so air can get to all parts of my garden, and I'm getting that grass out before it gets any bigger. At the same time, I get around my plants. sometimes I'll use it to make the row up, back up, because it just needs to be mounted back up, especially if you had rains. So there you have it. That's how I keep the grass out of my garden. Now it's time for me to go ahead and go through around this garden. Another tip that I do is that maybe I don't have enough time to do all of it. See, right now, you see, it doesn't look like I got grass into it. I don't have much grass into it. Every now and then I see a sprig, or I see 3 or 4, and I go ahead and get those out. But what I do is I go throughout the whole entire garden, whether it's one session, or maybe do half the garden, the next day do the other half of the garden. I do not wait until, until it's like overtaking it or just a lot. As you just saw that I went through this very fast. I went through it very fast because I'm not having to work as hard. I'm just getting the sprigs that's coming up, or ones that I cannot see that's going to be coming up in a couple of days. And that's the key, is keeping the grass out of your garden, is staying up with it. So I'll go through like this section right here, because on the other section we can't get into the rows, and so therefore the plants are overshadowing it, and therefore I don't have to worry about it as much. But this right here, okay, so we've had some rains. I see algae. I see it's not too bad compacted, because the rain will compact it. But I know by experience I need to go ahead and go through this just to stop the grass, because cultivation is key into a garden. Keeping it cultivated, it is the garden, and you get some bugs out here. Cultivation is key out into the garden. Keeping that grass cultivated. I definitely go around the edges, because around the edges there are certain spaces that I don't even walk onto. I can't walk on the fence, so therefore grass is more susceptible to even growing there than it is into the garden area that I'm walking at. Even like into the rows. The rows, because no one's walking on it, the grass will grow faster there than it will into the rows. So that's why I take this tool if there's grass, but I also like to take my other tool, my little cultivator, and get a little bit deeper. This is just scraping the surface. This is all it's doing, is cutting those roots to the grass. So now you have it. This is how I keep the grass out of my garden. There's nothing like walking into the garden and seeing your beautiful plants and really taking notice if there's any insects and just enjoying the moment. Yeah, that's why we do it, right? Partly. The other part is getting our natural, good, healthy food. Thanks, guys, for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you have, give me a thumbs up. If you learned anything from this video, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to leave a comment below and tell me what you think about this. You know, when I seen this tool, I was like, I don't know. So, but guess what? I bought this because it was on a reduced end of the season. I said, well, and I have a high wheel hoe, I think that's what it's called, from Hoss Tools, which I haven't used, honestly, but it does have these little blades that I can attach to it. I haven't used it because I've got this right here. So I got this half price, I think it was. And I said, well, you know how we are. I said, well, I'll get it because it's half price. And it is a tool for the garden. And so I picked this up and I started using it. And I started using it last year a little bit, but like on the sides. And that's when I noticed that, hey, I need to get a little bit ahead of this. And this will be my tool to keeping that grass out, because there's times in the garden nothing needs to take place. But on those sides near that fence is definitely where it needs to happen at. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on to the next video. So now I'm going to go through and get these rows done because I can see the clouds and we're going to have some rain coming in sure as I'm standing here. And I just want to go ahead and knock this out so there will not be any grass into my garden.